Welcome to the Upgrade School Marketing Podcast, the podcast for busy school marketers. I am Matt Soul. I'm the Director of Marketing Communications at Chapel Hill Chauncey Hall School.
And I'm Angie Ward. I'm the founder of Enroll Media Group, a digital marketing agency for schools. How's it going, Matt?
It's going well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, it's winter. The holiday season is upon us. Schools are busy, working harder than ever.
True. I know. Yeah, but we just are currently looking ahead to January and how many interviews we have coming in, and then looking ahead to, all the March and getting everybody in for revisit days and all the things coming up. So a lot of busy times coming up. And I think it's a very important time to think about how in school marketing, we're working smart and using the right tools and having a system, which is right in time with our guests that we have today.
Yes, exactly. Today, we're going to be talking with Antony Campitelli. He is with Enquiry Tracker, and the podcast today really dives into a lot of great stuff around how schools, need to operate like businesses and evaluate their technology stack and make sure they're doing exactly that, Matt, working smarter, not harder to achieve their goals. So Antony is the co-founder and CEO of Enquiry Tracker. He has over 30 years experience in Silicon Valley in the high-tech industry. He's an entrepreneur and marketing exec with extensive experience in all aspects of marketing and product management. He's held positions at Planet Labs, Apple, and Macro Media, and several startups. He started Enquiry Tracker with his brother, Greg Campitelli. They are both great guys. They're fantastic. And they started the company about 4 years ago. And since that time, they have over 280 schools across Australia, New Zealand, USA, and Canada using their product. So we will jump right into our conversation with Antony. Hi, Antony. It's so great to have you here with us today.
Hey, Angie. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me on the show.
Of course. We're so excited to chat with you today. So first, let's just start off kind of high level. Tell us a little bit about Enquiry Tracker and how it all started.
Yeah, sure. Look, about, I'd say about 4 years ago, my brother was out visiting in San Francisco. And we were talking, and I was talking, I'd been doing a lot of work with software companies in the Bay Area. And I was just talking to him about SaaS businesses and things of that nature. And I said, it's pretty easy to start a company. That the challenge is finding a real problem in the market. And he just looked at me. He goes, I can tell you what the problem is. He goes, I've been working in the education sector for 30 years. He goes, I do marketing plans. I do analyze all the data. He said, what they don't have is a visibility into their funnel. They don't know what their inquiries really look like, or what their demographics look like, or how many kids are children of alumni. Like, they just don't. There's not enough data in there that they need and they demand. He goes, I spend weeks and weeks doing these reports, and they're instantly outdated. And I just looked at him and said, hey, that is eminently solvable with software. Like, we could solve that problem with software easily. And so that's how we started. We started the company out that way, and ended up now, some 4 years later, with hundreds of schools using a product that's designed to solve that problem. So it's really tailored. It's really designed by educationalists. It's not designed by technologists. Like, I came up with the initial wireframes and designs, but we sat down with admissions directors, marketing departments at primarily private independent schools, and said, hey, if we built something like this and it did this and that, would you use it? And they said, use it tomorrow. I don't have anything that does anything like that. So that's how we started. That's honestly how we started the company out. And we just grew it slowly and expanded over the years. It's been exciting.
So with Enquiry Tracker, when you talk to school marketers now that are using it, what particular aspects to them are the thing that stands out the most? So what tools within it, what abilities within it are the things that they are right away being like, this is like a game changer for it?
Yeah, I think let's take a step back. I think for me, it's if you think about a school is really a business, right? And they're in the business of education. I get that. But really, without students sitting in a classroom on a seat, they have no one to educate. Therefore, they have no business, right? And so the lifeline of every school is future enrollments, right? And I would argue maintaining low attrition. You want to try to keep your attrition as low as possible. And that's like any business. Like if I'm running a software business, it's a SaaS business, I've got to get new people signing up every month, but I don't want people leaving, right? So I've got to run my business in a way where I'm looking after my customers, right? In this case, students and current families, right? And I'm looking after my prospects. And in this case, it's future families, parents, and even more and more so today, it's their children, because the children are having a bigger influence in the decision about whether they're going to go to that school. Like when I was a kid, it was wherever my parents said I was going to school, that's it. I'm going to that school. I have no choice in the matter. Whether I had my mates going there or not, didn't matter. Now it's a bit different about what programs available, if there's a lot of outdoor activities, what sports programs, what level of tuition they're getting. So you've got to start looking at your school like a business. And so we really looked at Enquiry Tracker through that lens to sort of say, how do we help schools without making it onerous? In other words, without saying, hey, here's a tool that you have to configure and do all this stuff and do this magic and then write all these emails and have it all working for you. How do we do it so it just works? And that's the approach we took. We took an approach of building a solution that solved the problem of, if a family is interested in coming to a school, how do we track that inquiry right from the initial point all the way through to enrollment? And that's sort of the fundamental premise of Enquiry Tracker, is to help schools manage their inquiries and grow their enrollments over time. Like that's the essence of it. It's not a student information system. Let's be really clear. You've got Blackboard, Fax, School Admin, and all those sorts of products to do that, and they do it really well. But what none of these products do, and even third-party tools, like you might be familiar with products like MailChimp, HubSpot, even other CRM solutions, they're not built for schools, because schools operate in a unique manner. And Angie, you'd know this at Enroll Media. You'd know that you've got to get traffic from a call to action on a digital display ad campaign, driving them to the website to do something. And then the number one conversion for a school is to get them to make an inquiry. And ideally, the number one inquiry is to book a tour, to get a tour, whether it's virtual or on premise, because you've got a higher probability of converting that family into an enrolled student down the road.
Exactly. And I think, to Matt's point, sort of what is that aha moment for a school when they look at something like Enquiry Tracker? What is kind of the big selling point? I think the fact that it's an event management tool built in to the CRM is a key element, because that ultimately is the goal. Let's get them to campus. And so it's great that that's built into the tool in some fashion.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Look, thanks for bringing that up. So I'd love to share some statistics, because we have hundreds of schools, hundreds of thousands of forms have been completed on websites all around the world. So I can tell you that of inquiries coming to a school, around 89% are going to come in on their website. 89%, right? Of those, about 58% are going to be for events, event registration. So, the tip, Angie and Matt, here is that even without a product like Enquiry Tracker, if someone's searching for something for like best girls school in my town, or great schools with gymnastics programs, they don't always land on the website's homepage. They're going to look, they're going to research and read, and eventually they're going to come to your website. They might come on a blog article written by a student that's talking about gymnastics at such and such a school. That's what they want to read. My point is, and a tip, is that every school should have a book a tour button, like register for this event. It should be ideally in the nav and on every page, because if they land on a page deep in your site, you've got to capture them. And I will guarantee you this: if you do that one thing, you will get more inquiries. It's impossible to get less. So, Angie, I'd encourage schools to go quickly look at their website and say, do I have a book a tour button on all my pages, and is it easy to find?
Absolutely. And I'll add some data to that as well. I took a lot of different analytics accounts and compiled some internal site search data. So when somebody has that little site search option on their website, the top 3 things that people are searching for when they get to a school's website are visit, and then of course tuition and financial aid. So I thought that was interesting. So visit is one of those top 3 terms.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to give people tips on, like, remember, the idea of doing the visit is asking a few fundamental questions. Don't ask 20 questions on a form. Just get the fundamental information, and the information I recommend our schools to do, and all the listeners can do the same thing here, is, like, obviously you got to get a contact info for a parent and guardian, first name, last name, email, and if you can, phone number. But those other 3 are required. But do not do it without asking about their children. Like, get at least, if they're inquiring about your school, they've got 1 or more children. And statistically speaking, most families have, what is it, 2.3 kids in a family or something.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a probability that they have another child or will know someone else that could go to your school. So have a form that can at least capture 1 student's first name, last name. And then the other tip is to make sure what grade level would they be starting at and what year. Don't assume that it's always, the incoming cohort for next fall. It might be a few years out. Get that information, and then make sure if they do submit that form, follow up. Have an automated email. You could do it with a Google form. You could do it with Gravity forms. There's lots of solutions you can do it. Of course, we have it all built in. One of the things I like to say for schools, for us, is we like to say, hey, with Enquiry Tracker, you just add water, because we have the event management, we have the forms, we have all the right fields, we have data entry aids, because that's key to reporting your pipeline. And we have all those emails that go. So it just makes it easy. But the tip I would highly suggest schools do is make sure you've got the book a visit form.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you've got some automation, simple automation, like thanks for registering, send them a calendar invite to make sure that they turn up. And then follow up on that after the event. Say, thanks a lot for coming. We really appreciate it. And never send an email without a call to action. Never. Don't waste your time. So I probably talked for a bit longer than I planned there, Angie, but you got me thinking about a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great.
I would say one note on that too, that in talking with Angie in Enroll Media Group a few years ago, we used to, open houses are huge in how many people are coming in. So we used to have our open house landing page, would have it live a month or 2 before our fall open houses and run it. And then we would like unpublish it and then republish it in the spring when we'd have that. And, Angie had talked to us about the SEO hit that we would take by publishing and unpublishing a page back and forth. So one of the things that we did that was simple is we just keep our open house page open all the time. We change the dates, and now we're able to add virtual events to it too, but with really minimal, like once our fall open house is done, page stays live, but now it changes to spring dates. One of the things we've seen, not only is it helpful just to have it, and we can have it on the homepage and we can have it everywhere, but we're going into open house season now with the amount of people registered being where we were a month into promoting the open house before, because now people, whenever they're searching, if it's 3 months before open house and going through, it's trickling in and they're able to see that. And there's an easy call to action there. So that's one thing I would say that we saw a really positive benefit of, that was actually easier than what we did before. We're just keeping that page up there and making it an option for people. And they're coming in.
Yeah, the other good thing is, because you've got all that stuff in advance, well in advance, you're well prepared, you know how many people you could expect to attend at the event. One thing we like to also remind schools is that, the best brand ambassadors that schools have are their kids, right? They really are. If their kids are well-behaved, well-mannered, good communicators, it's going to go an awful long way. So another tip here, as you just inspired me, as you run these events, what we like to remind schools of is, again, think about how you leverage your brand ambassadors. If you've got a student ambassador program, you've got students in leadership positions that don't necessarily have to be all your seniors. They could be year 9s, year 7s, grade 7, whatever, that's fine. Have them welcome families as they come onto campus, right? Have them use technology like tablets to ask them who they are, look them up, check them in, right? And then there's an opportunity then for those kids to build a relationship with that potential future student with their parents' permission. They could say, what are you interested in? Do you like gymnastics? Do you like robotics? What is it? We have these great programs. I'm on the robotics competition team. and it forges that relationship. And these parents are going to leave that event thinking, wow, look how good these kids are. Look how good communicators they are. And the young kid is going to be like, some big kid was talking to me like I'm important. It is going to have a halo effect on your brand, and it'll increase what is the best form of advertising is word of mouth. So, when you think about these events like you just described, Matt, think about the whole product. Like, what's the whole product? The first product is the experience prior to the event, which you've created an amazing one, easy to register. How do you pull it off on the day to blow people's socks off, like amaze them? And then the last part is make sure you follow up. So there's another tip I think that schools should, and it's not expensive to do. It's simple, and they can do it today.
Yeah. And I'd say in the follow-up too, one of the things we've seen really successful. So we do use HubSpot, and we can talk about that in a minute about, being made for a school or not. But as far as follow-up for our tours, anytime somebody visits, whether it's an open house or a tour, we the next day send a very quick thank you for coming. It's, we want to make these tours and these visits as valuable as possible for families. And we have a 3-question survey. And the things that we were going through it the other day, we have hundreds and hundreds of responses. People, I think we found about 30%, 33% of people will respond to that immediately that next day. But the immediate things that we get from the tour, and, oh, I wish we would have, this was great, but I wish we would have seen this. Or, I really we get things that we're able to make a change in that next day. We've had changes in our tours happen a day after a tour, and we got feedback and, they're right. They should be seeing this or not seeing this or doing that. So I think when you hit people at that time, they're very willing to be open and honest about what's going there, and you're hearing it right from them when they're in, it's very fresh and they're in that moment.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Angie will know this, like statistically speaking, you send an email, it's that first 12 hours. That's about it that they're going to click. If they click on it, the majority are going to do it, take action. Again, another tip that we often recommend schools, again, this is about building your brand, is when you do that 3-question survey, think about having your students analyze the data and have them report, like do a little presentation, have them present a report about what would they do, what would they recommend should do differently. Again, the reason is that obviously you want to listen to them and take the necessary action. It's going to have that effect. The parents are going to realize these kids are not just involved in education. They're learning incredibly valuable skills about what it means to go into business, because they're listening to your customers and you're making a change. So these are very small things that schools can do that A, reduce their own workload, but B, have a bigger impact. And the other thing I'll give a tip on, and I don't know if you guys do this, I'd be interested if you do this at your school, Matt. In the Valley, one of the best ways to measure your product or service is a Net Promoter Score, an NPS survey. And an NPS is typically a 1-question survey. And in our business, it would be, would you recommend our school to a friend or a colleague on a scale of 0 to 10? That's it. And of course, the follow-up question would be, why did you select the score you did? And that's it. Just send that out. And you can Google NPS to understand how the formula works, but you establish a benchmark which every school should establish, number one. And number two, their goal should be, I want to improve it each year. That's it. And also, you know what I'm going to say is have your students come up with recommendations, analyze the data, and say, it's the campus wasn't quite clean when I visited. Oh, who knows what it is, right? Mm-hmm. But these are good takeaways. I think every school could consider implementing, and it's not costly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do. So we do that. Just to answer that, we do the Net Promoter question as part of like a survey for our internal families that are here. We do it for our students, and we also have started incorporating over the years families that have declined our offer, a survey of them at the end of the year, which is, some of the things that come from that are people are very open and honest because they actually didn't choose ours. They came through the process and they made another choice or decided to go back to public school or whatever choice they made, and we will ask that. And what made that decision? And the answers in there, sometimes it was things outside of the school's ability. It was something outside that changed, that they moved, whatever. But sometimes there's things in there and they're open and honest. And again, these are people who really have no stakes in it because they're not coming to the school anymore. And they are very open and raw with their answers. And I would say, like, in addition to the Net Promoter, that's a really great survey that we have now in our rotation and get things from, to say, like, this is some great info that we can take.
Yeah, the fact that you said that goes without saying, that you're obviously asking the same question when people do enroll, right?
Yep.
And then what I also encourage schools to do is look at that data, make sure your core messaging on your website and in your material, all your go-to-market material, your collateral, your view book, all of those sorts of content are reflecting that messaging, and make sure staff are aware of it, not only of the why did you, but the why didn't you, so everyone can get involved in sort of understanding some of the challenges or what makes your school really unique in the eyes of families. So data surveys are the foundation, right? Like, you'd know that, Angie.
Oh yeah, they're so important. I mean, that's first party data right there that every school needs to be collecting throughout the year, based on your goals, for sure. And then of course, leaning into the technology for data. Speaking of which, sometimes there's what's it called when there's too much data?
Analysis paralysis.
Yes, analysis paralysis. Exactly. Yeah. And so I think one of the things I've come to appreciate with Enquiry Tracker is there's just enough data to make meaningful decisions around. Like, it's not there, like there's this crazy, data visualization tool built in that's giving you, metrics around things that don't really matter for schools. It's built for schools. And that, from the form to the email templates to the inquiry tracking to the data visualization, all of that is really built for schools. And I think Matt was actually about to talk a little bit about how it can be a challenge for schools to try to use some of these tools that are just, quite frankly, they're built for e-commerce or other businesses. And you have to constantly put that enrollment lens on these tools. And it can be a challenge, and it can be a time, waste. So I'd love to hear what you think there, Matt, as somebody who's
I would just add to that. Like, I don't know, the analogy that was in my head while you're talking about this, and this might be just because I have, an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old, but I was just thinking about Legos while you were talking about that. And Legos are big in Australia as well.
Legos are big worldwide.
Everywhere, right? Okay, good. I want to make sure.
That reality show, there's like a Lego.
Yeah, we love that. The Lego Master. Yeah, Lego Masters. That's great.
That here as well, yeah.
I feel like, just while you were saying that, I feel like sometimes with HubSpot, and we've been using HubSpot since 2018 now. Just, we've been going back and looking at all that. And it's been a game changer 100% for what we're doing and making it easy to book tours and our dashboards and everything. I've talked to other schools about it, but I do feel like sometimes it is like dumping a bin of Legos on the floor, and you got to try to, build a Star Wars Death Star out of it, and you're just got a bunch of pieces. You can do it, and you can do these things, and it can be fun to do, but there are times when it's tough. It's not, and I do talk to other schools when they're talking about, I've put enough of these things out, people will come to me to say, we're thinking about using HubSpot for our marketing, and that's definitely one of my disclaimers is, it's not specifically built for a school. It would be great if you were an e-commerce place and you have a very straight line of, they come in, they download your webinar, they become a sales lead, they buy it, and this becomes a lot more complicated when there's different levels of school, or some people inquire 2 years before their enroll date, or there's all these different things which we've gotten to do, but I would say every time it is not well built to be right out of the box useful for schools.
HubSpot is a powerful CRM and marketing automation platform, and amongst a bunch of other things. It's pretty extensive. It also can get fairly expensive, not only in just annual cost, but in technical horsepower. Often, a lot of schools we talk to don't have thousands of students and do not have a department an IT department resource. They're often what I like to call technical poor. They just don't have the technical experience to take on something like a marketing automation tool, which is basically, when you buy these tools like a CRM or a marketing, they just come empty. You got to build it. You got to figure out, I've got to create a landing page. I've got to figure out how to embed that landing page on my website. I've got to then write the emails that go to it. Then I've got to make the conditional emails. And then I've got to do, and next thing you know, it's 3 months. And of course, their job is still happening. So the second issue is not only are they technical poor to figure this out, they're time poor. They don't have the time. They've just got interrupt driven, and they're wearing several hats a lot of the time. Again, this doesn't apply to every school. It applies to the majority of the schools that we are dealing with, because they're coming to us saying, we really need help. I can't afford these expensive systems, but I really can't afford the time to try to figure it out. Do you know someone who can help, or what have you got? So it came back to my phrase before, where those tools are amazing, much more powerful than what our product will probably ever do. But remember, that's a very large enterprise company with thousands of employees building that product, right? We tend to say, let's focus on the solution. Like Angie was saying before, I don't give you a data visualization engine where you have to create your queries and design, should this be a heat map chart, or should it be a donut chart, or how do I best represent the data? We have figured that out. We decided which charts. And the reason why we did that is we've got the experience at having developed content that has to be presented to executive leadership teams at schools. So we know exactly what they want to see. What do my funnel metrics look like over time? How are they comparing this year to last year? Are we on track? Are there any flags going off? So, Matt, I hope that answers it, because I think HubSpot, Marketo, even some open source free ones, they're great, but you just have to do it all, right? You have to build it, and you have to have that expertise. And I liked your analogy of dropping the Legos on the floor, because if you left, right, trust me, I wouldn't want to be the guy that came in and tried to figure it out, because it's difficult, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I hope
you don't want to be the guy who comes in and steps on those Legos either. You don't want...
That's usually me.
You've got me off track for a second. There's some dude that just got the Guinness Book of Records for walking on Legos with no shoes.
He walked like 2 miles, and it was all for charity, I think. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For a good cause. That sounds brutal. But that is I think I've heard it said too with HubSpot, like it's a Lamborghini of CRM, and you don't always need, like that's not always needed, but there's a lot of different options up there. And no, I'm excited to check out Enquiry Tracker. And before we go, I did want to say, are there any ways, next steps for people where they can check out you and the company and more of what you guys are putting out?
Yeah, look, people are welcome to go to Enquiry Tracker with an ENQUIRY Tracker, TRACKER.net, and check out, there's some videos on the website. There's a lot of information there that they can review, read. If anyone wants to contact me, I'm Antony at enquirytracker.net. Happy to take a call, email. We'll set up a demo if anyone's interested. Have you talked to some of our customers? And I know, Angie, you're working with some schools with Enquiry Tracker as well. And I think Angie also has a lot of experience with it as well, and give a lot of good answers too.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I think we gotta do it again, and let's go play with some Legos. I'm gonna go play with some Legos right now. I'm gonna go build something.
Man. Thanks very much, Angie. Really appreciate your time, guys.
Thank you, Anthony. We'll talk to you soon.
Always good to catch up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again for Antony for coming on and sharing so much great information about Enquiry Tracker and just how schools can be thinking about themselves differently. To me, I think that that's something that it's super important that I got from that. Thinking about a school as a business is something that's always good to be reminded of, because we are.
Absolutely. Antony, he's such a wealth of information, and so is his brother, Greg, and the entire Enquiry Tracker team. So even if you don't need their technology, it's just so great to talk to them. They're so experienced in the education space. So I'm really glad we were able to get them on as a guest today. So we've got an A+ of the week.
We do.
Matt, who do you have?
Yes, I have the A+ of the week. So the A+ came to us from Aubrey Birch of Easy School Marketing. So thank you, Aubrey, for sending us this tip. And Aubrey's also going to be a future guest on an episode all about retention. So look forward to that one coming up. And this school is Butler Montessori in Maryland, Butler. They are an A+ school this week for having a really robust Giving Tuesday campaign that they did. So you can go on and you can see on Instagram part of their campaign, but we got to hear even a little bit more about it. So, you can see publicly, they put out all these Instagram posts about their fundraising and the match they had and all this great video and things from the students there. They also had it matched up with emails that were going out and individualized thank yous with students and all these different elements that just was a really, really great, positive and successful Giving Tuesday campaign. So shout out to Butler Montessori. We'll put their link in the show notes so you can check it out and see how it's done.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, they really did a great job. And I'm happy to hear they crushed their Giving Tuesday goals as a result. Yep. Awesome.
And thank you again to everybody else for listening, for watching. Make sure to subscribe. Go to upgradeschoolmarketing.com and subscribe. We send out an email as soon as a new episode's ready. And you can follow us on LinkedIn and make sure to share and comment and let us know what you'd like to hear more about in the future.
Yes, thanks everyone, and we'll see you next time.
See you.